Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is the Produce Moms Podcast. My name is Lori Taylor, and oh my goodness, are we going to have just the most fun and joyful episode. We are literally talking to a founder who has his purpose is he wants people to play with their food. And I mean, how fun is that? We are welcoming Tomo Delaney. He is with Tanashi. This is food paint, and it is completely natural. Moms, you are going to love what this product line is all about. Think of like a condiment, like a maple syrup or strawberry sauce, but they're in these little paint tubes that almost look like icing, the pre-made icing you would buy in the baking aisle. And it's just a certified organic food paint. It's vegan, it's gluten-free. It has none of the added junk that we want no artificial flavors, no artificial colors. It's vegetarian, free of all the major allergens. I could go on and on. I don't need to though, because we have the founder of Tanashi here on the show today. Tomo, welcome. I am so thrilled that you're here. I'm so thrilled that I found your product because I think it is so fun.
Thank you so much, Lori. It's really, really good to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So please tell us a little about your professional background and how in the heck did you, what led you to Tanashi?
Well, it's not a conventional story by any means. I have to say, I spent my entire career working in the fashion industry. So the jump from that to becoming the creator of a kids' organic food brand was a big one. But I had been in the fashion industry for nearly 22 years, and my kids were aged 9 and 5. And I was desperately looking for a way to escape the fashion industry. It was so much fun in my 20s and my early 30s. I can't recommend it highly enough as an industry that's creative, fun, lucrative, and exciting and glamorous. It's all of those things. But I had kids, and my wife has a very high-powered job, and she was going to work every day. I was a freelance photographer and a freelance producer, so I was spending more time at home and naturally became the stay-at-home parent, which I absolutely loved. And I knew that I was sort of slowly and purposefully extricating myself from the fashion industry and spending more and more time at home with the kids, but they weren't interested in food. It just was almost a daily trip, me wheeling my then 3-4-year-old son around the aisles of various grocery stores near our apartment in Manhattan and trying to find anything that would inspire my 2 children, both of them, inspire either of them to want to get up to the table and want to focus on their food. And I just couldn't find anything. And it was increasingly more and more frustrating. And I mentioned it to a family friend one day, and she emailed me a couple of weeks later and she said, I've got a business proposition for you. And I went to see her the next day. And she spelt out this idea in 3 or 4 sentences, and I immediately understood what it was. It was all about presenting food to children by color. And not only that, but instead of flavor, but also giving them a purpose, giving them something to do once they got up to the table, not just saying to the kids, okay, it's mealtime, up to the table. It was more, it was something that you could say to your kids, hey kids, get up to the table and then you can do this. And not only that, this thing is fun. And to that end, children, when you sort of give a child a sort of 30-second rundown of what food paint is, they understand it immediately. They cannot wait to get their hands on it. All they hear is, this stuff's fun. It's in these brightly colored tubes. It's got it's got Peppa Pig and characters on the tubes. It's different colors. You can do this yourself. And we know, as parents, we know that kids are desperate to impress their parents. They're desperate to complete a task that they've been set by their parents, and they're desperate to complete it to their parents' satisfaction. And so they sort of grab onto this project, and then they're able to paint, in as much as they can with these tubes, because ultimately it's a condiment, it's not a paint set. But the different tubes have different colors in, and so they've got a little project to do at the table. And then, the killer, obviously, is that it's delicious as well. Conversely, though, if you present a box of food paint to a parent, a lot of the time parents look a little bit, they tend to look a little panicked. They get a panicked look in their eye because they're immediately worrying about mess at the table and playing with food. And why do I need to buy this if I've already got maple syrup in the cabinet? But that's why, what I would love in an ideal world is to have an army of 6-year-old salespeople. Right. If I had 500 6-year-old kids working as my sales reps around the country, we'd be home dry.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, for sure. And anyone, you just check out the website, nashi4kids.com. I mean, it's right there in the URL. This is definitely a product line that is for kids, by kids. And I don't know, Tomo, I think you're onto something. Get those 6-year-olds talking about it in a big way, right? Get them a cell phone each and a laptop. I could see so many kids just being natural ambassadors for what you've built here. Let's tell our listeners just a little bit more about what it is. I mean, it's really not paint at all. It just happens to be in a tube that looks like it, but explain what's inside of it, and maybe even more importantly, what's not in it.
Yeah, well, it's an organic product. It was always, again, the day that I sat down with my friend Pegi, the day after she put the idea in front of me, within about 10 minutes, we'd worked out what the colors were and what the flavors were and what they needed to be, and the fact that it needed to be organic. So to that end, there is no added color. So the colors are different from tube to tube, but it's not a paint set. You don't open these tubes and be confronted with bright primary or neon colored paint. It is organic strawberry, organic blueberry, and organic peach. So the colors are what they are, but they're suitably different that kids, are excited to get their hands on them. And it's an organic product, and it's made, there's over 92% IQF fruit, and IQF is individually quick frozen fruit. So it's whole organic fruit that we use, and it's just blended and cooked and pasteurized, and we'd add a little bit of organic pear juice to just take the edge off the flavors, and a couple of other ingredients to hold the shape on the plate. And that's it. It's really simple. It's like, as I say, it's over 90% fruit, and that's what we always saw it being. Yep. And how are some of the favorite ways that these 6-year-olds everywhere who love the product, but really, I mean, gosh, the span, I mean, this is a product that I can even see it being something that when you're, at the same stage when you're incorporating the first foods, I have to think that Nashi would be one of those products that helps with the development of dexterity. And, I could see preschoolers really getting into this too, but tell us a little bit more about how kids use it. Kids of all ages, adults too, I guess, can use this. There's no reason why we can't. Adults certainly do use it. Yeah. We're talking to the head baby food buyer at a very well-known big box store, because she feels that in their store it works best in baby food. But then we're also about to go into the syrups aisle in Walmart, which is where I always envisaged it being, because that explains the product. If you put it on the shelf next to maple syrup, that helps with some of the, as I was saying before, parents wondering why they need it or what it is. And, without their kids there to say, Mom, you've got to get this stuff, it's amazing. If they're in the store and it's on the shelf next to the maple syrup in Walmart, it explains, this is an alternative to maple syrup. It's a low sugar, organic, much healthier version of maple syrup that kids can play with, for want of a better word, and will enjoy using. And the other worry that parents have, is the mess factor. If you give your kid a tube of this or 3 tubes of this, are they just going to squirt it all over their brother or sister or all over the kitchen walls? But again, going back to, if you give your kid a task to complete, that's what happens. You say, you hand them the tube, depending on the age of the kid. If it's, if the kid's 2 or 3, you give them 1 tube, obviously. Whereas my 14-year-old daughter will happily sit down on a Saturday and create pixel art on a waffle with all 3 tubes. And she'll sit there and spend 20 minutes creating these lovely little patterns on a waffle. So the age range is pretty significant. You can go, the baby food aspect, you're down to 6-month-year-olds,
right.
6-month-old babies, and it becomes a sensory thing, in the same way that, babies' first foods at 6 months is often pureed avocado and pureed carrot and stuff. Why not pureed strawberry? Why not pureed peach? And of course, the 6-month-old baby isn't going to be able to use the tube themselves, but it can be a baby food. It can be a baby food. It can be a teenager's food. It can be anything in between.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. So we've, already kind of covered, I think it's just brilliant that it's going next to the maple syrup at Walmart. That is really going to help people understand what to do with it. Where else are the products found? I know that from visiting your website, you can buy direct from your website. Yeah. And so tell folks where they can find more.
Well, the other 2 main channels we're in at the moment are thrivemarket.com, which has been amazing for us.
Yeah.
They are the best. And when our sales started doing what they have done at Thrive, I was sort of bowled over, and I was like, we found our audience. And of course we found our audience. It's an organic product. But at the same time, you put Peppa Pig on the box and it suddenly makes more sense in different channels. It's quite hard, launching this, especially with no prior experience in the food industry. I knew on day one what this product needed to be and what it could become and how big it could become. And my conviction has never changed. I understand that. But the sort of strange thing, especially having grown up in England as well, is I'm trying to sell a product that's never existed before to 50 countries, and all with slightly different demographics. Right. And I'm talking about the States, obviously, and with different demographics. There's a lot of people in this country, and this is a product that does appeal, that can be sold to kids aged between 6 months and 14, 15 years old, and also college-age students. When we were taken on by one of our brokerage firms, the guy there took it home and left it on his kitchen counter. He said, "This is how I test products. I take them home and leave them on the kitchen counter for my wife and kids to discover." And he had college-age kids, and they were like, "This is amazing. This stuff's amazing. Where did?" So and I love that as well. It's brilliant. So it sort of has different appeals to different age groups, and the licensing outside of it, putting Pepper on the box was something that made sense immediately, again, because it's a unique product that's never existed before. It was just another layer of reassurance, both for parents and for kids. Everybody knows who Peppa the Pig is. And from there, I suddenly started thinking, well, that's actually quite a good idea. Who else could we partner up with? And we are about to launch a vegetable set with the Very Hungry Caterpillar on the box and on the tubes. Because when on day one, we conceived of it as being a 6-pack, a rainbow. So it had red, orange, yellow, green, blue. It was the whole rainbow. And red was strawberry and orange was carrot. And so there were 3 vegetable flavors and 3 fruit flavors. And then quite late on in production, we realized that the production costs would have been so prohibitively high that we would have had to retail the 6-pack for over $20. So we had to pivot at very, very short notice and took the vegetable flavors out, but they were already formulated. So it's been actually a very, very straightforward process to, once we secured the license with Very Hungry Caterpillar, and our amazing packaging designer, Kirsty, did such an incredible job designing the Caterpillar packaging. It was very, very easy just to go back to the original vegetable formulas. They are being tweaked very slightly at the moment, just being updated and making sure that they are exactly what we want them to be. But that's coming out in June. And then further on from that, I was like, I was sitting with my wife a couple of weeks ago, and I said, one more. We need, Hungry Caterpillar is obviously, an amazing, universally loved book, and we all grew up with book, and our kids have all been brought up with that book. Pepper is going to turn into an equally iconic brand over time. She's 10 years old, but she is, universally loved, and you can see why. And I said to my wife, I think, if we can find one more absolute classic kids brand, we've got a really great little family of products here. Who would that third company be? And she looked at me and she rolled her eyes and she said, it's Crayola.
Oh, I love it.
And I was like, oh my God. Of course it's Crayola. And within 2 days of her rolling her eyes at me, I had effectively secured our third license partner in Crayola. And that one I'm really excited about, because obviously we can design the tubes to look like crayons.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
And so the box is going to look like a Crayola box, and the tubes inside are going to be a second fruit set. So it'll be 3 different fruit flavors separate to the pepper ones. But the tubes can be designed to look exactly like Crayola crayons, and then you squeeze them and the color comes out of the bottom of the tube in the same way that you would with a crayon drawing on a piece of paper. I'm really excited about that.
Yes, me too. It's amazing. This is, and it's perfect. Your wife is spot on with the eye roll and the suggestion. But
she works in marketing to give her, her due. So, it wasn't hugely surprising that she came up with the idea immediately.
Yes, no, it's a great fit. And, another thing that I'm so excited about, of course, all of these amazing brands that you've teamed up with for your licensing and your packaging and the promotion of this wonderful product that gets children excited about what they're eating. But I am really excited to share with our listeners today what you guys are doing with No Kid Hungry.
Yeah, I mean, again, it sort of amazes me. I'm in my late 40s. My memory is failing me on a monthly basis. It gets worse and worse and worse. But so there are so many flashpoints in the evolution of food paint that I remember vividly as if they happened last night, and a lot of them all happened separately in the space of an hour or two. The very first day I sat down to work out on a piece of paper what the product was and what it would look like. So we came up with the colors, we came up with the flavors, we came up with the packaging. It had to be in tubes. It had to look like a paint set, even though it isn't a paint set, it's a condiment, because it had to be in tubes small enough for kids to be able to use themselves. Even a medium-sized bottle of maple syrup is heavy. But the other thing that just came absolutely organically on that day one was we have to give back. This is a product for kids, but it's an organic product, and we've got to do this right. And I'm seeing I was the target audience. I was a stay-at-home father who bought organic food for their kids as much as possible. And I was like, well, how do we give back? Who do we give back to? And it was a no-brainer. It had to be No Kid Hungry. And to be completely honest, our relationship with them at the moment is extremely informal. And it's just a matter of us being able to, send them a fairly modest check every year. But as Noshi grows as a company, I'm hoping that our relationship with them grows and grows and grows, and we're able to give back more and more and more to them. Because especially, even given everything that's going on in the world now and what's been going on over the last couple of years, and with COVID and kids out of school and businesses closing and people's jobs disappearing, the number of kids who live under the poverty line in the USA is it's embarrassing. And the fact that No Kid Hungry exists is absolutely incredible. For them to be what they are and do what they do at the moment is awe-inspiring, and they deserve as much support as they can get, to be completely honest.
Yep, that's right. And their purpose and their vision, it's just so in line with yours. Yeah. It's all about children. Yeah. And you've got an excerpt from the No Kid Hungry website that you actually have on the Nashi website. Yeah. And there is no possible excuse for children to go hungry in this country, yet it happens every day in every community. Yep. It's a powerful statement, and it really helps folks understand the magnitude of the need to give back to this exact type of cause. So just hats off to what you've built and, the great purpose and passion behind it. This is exactly the kind of story that we love to showcase on this podcast.
Thank you.
We tell people often that the podcast is a place to go to learn about people who are making the world a better place. And I definitely feel like Nashi as a brand, as well as you, Tomo, as an entrepreneur, are right there in the running. You are making the world a better place with your work. So hats off to you. Thank you so much for being our guest. I want to encourage everyone to check out nashiforkids.com. Connect with this amazing brand. I mean, there's so much passion, as you know, from listening to Tomo today and hearing more about his story and the wonderful vision and purpose behind it. But with that, Tomo, please sign us off. Any closing remarks that you might have, and final goodbye to our listeners.
Thank you so much, Laurie, for having me on the show. When my friend Pegi put this idea in front of me, it was like a million light bulbs going off in my head. I could immediately see what this product should be and what it could become. It was new. Nobody had done it before. I was amazed nobody had done it before, but I immediately knew what the flavors should be, what the colors should be, what the packaging should be. It all made sense within seconds of the idea being put in front of me. I've spent nearly 6 years doing this, but we are effectively still a startup. I think big things are happening this year with the Caterpillar launch, with the move into the Walmart syrups aisle, and with various other conversations we're having with other big box stores and obviously our online channels. I firmly believe that Nashi will become what I thought it would become when I had it put in front of me that day, for that very cold February day in 2015. So I've done most of the heavy lifting now, and I suppose really the only thing I'm lacking is that little army of 6-year-old sales reps that I was talking about earlier on. So if you've got any ideas as to how I can find them, let me know.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to Lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.